Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're back for part 2 of our Okavango adventure, this time in the SimWorks Studios Zenith CH701. Some of you may recall in part 1 of the series we brought our passengers from Morn International Airport up towards Camp Xigera here in Botswana. In today's video we're going to be taking one of those passengers on a tour around the local area, obviously hoping to spot some of the wildlife as we go. As I say, for today's flight we're going to be taking out the SimWorks Studios Zenith CH701. Hopefully the flight will be a good opportunity to test out the aircraft. Overall I've very much been enjoying the Zenith so far, we'll talk more about that towards the end of the video. This video is not a review per se, we're really just taking the aircraft out for a bit of a recreational flight around the Okavango scenery. Nonetheless, I do hope you enjoy the flight. If you do, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, you can leave those down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll do my best to try and answer them. We best not keep our VIP passenger waiting, so let's head for the cockpit of the CH701 and we'll get the aircraft started up. So good morning and welcome to the cockpit of the SimWorks Studios Zenith CH701. As I say, it is still morning here on the ground in the Okavango Delta at the moment. Still fairly early, just coming up on 7 AM local time. As you'll have seen, we just landed outside of Camp Xigera. We've just picked up a VIP passenger, and he's hoping for a little bit of an aerial tour around the local area and its lakes. Obviously the aim of the game for the flight today is to try and spot some of the local wildlife as we go. We'll try and get a few decent pictures en route as well. Anyway, passengers on board, so we'll start the aircraft up. The master switch can come on, as can the nav lights and the strobe lights, and finally we'll get the fuel pump on. Fuel quantities look good, the fuel tank selector is on both, we'll just crack the throttle for the start. Engine's still pretty warm, so we probably won't need the choke for the start. And checking that the prop area is clear. Clear prop! And we'll engage the starter. So we do have a good start there, our little Rotax engine roaring into life. We'll idle around 2000 RPM. All pressure's looking good. We'll get the radio master on. We're not going to need the radio for the flight today, not going to really need the transponder either, but we'll just get the master on there for the trim indication light. Anyway, all pressure looking good. All temperature still on the stops there, but that should come up momentarily. The Zenith can get off the ground in pretty short order, but we'll just turn the aircraft around and backtrack slightly just to maximise our takeoff run. So the park brake can come off, we'll just swing the aircraft around. And as you can see, we've got a bit more clearway behind us, so we'll backtrack down to the end just to maximise the distance we have for the takeoff. And once again, swinging the aircraft around. And back on the brakes, park brake can go back on, and again we'll idle around 2000 RPM. Not much in the way of wind, so we'll just carry out the run up in our present direction. Once again, engine T's and P's looking good, the oil temperature just come up there as well now. We'll come up to 3000 RPM for the run up. And just carry out a quick mag check, so onto the left magneto. Slight drop there, around 25 RPM. Back to both. And onto the right. And the same there again. And back to both. Once again, engine temperatures and pressures looking good. We'll come back to idle. And it looks as though we're idling around 1150. We'll come back up to 2000. The landing light can go on. And we'll get the flaps to full for the takeoff. Again, we can get the Zenith off the ground in pretty short order either way, but obviously just to minimise our takeoff distance. There's not much in terms of obstacles ahead either, so climb performance not really limiting today. And lastly, just before we go, we'll carry out a quick flight control check. So it looks like our passengers all set. We'll come off the parking brake, we'll hold the aircraft on the tow brakes, we'll come up to full power on the engine. So it's full throttle, RPM's looking good, T's and P's are good, we'll come off the brakes. The aircraft just wanting to lurch out to the left there momentarily, correcting that with rudder. And we'll try and get ourselves airborne just before we hit the high grass there. Climbing like a rocket initially, we'll just keep the nose up to keep the speed back, just until we've retracted the flaps. It's pretty easy to overspeed the flaps in the Zenith, and you can actually damage them if you do so. Anyway, we'll come back to 5,000 RPM for the climb, and we'll start to turn out towards the northeast. Initially we're going to head out towards Chief's Camp, and we'll see what we can spot on route. We'll level the aircraft off at 3,500. We don't want to really be cruising around too high. Obviously the lower we are, hopefully the more wildlife we'll spot en route. So coming back to around 4,000 RPM for the cruise. And in the cruise now the landing light can come off, as can the fuel pump. So as I say, we'll just continue to track out towards the northeast, initially heading out towards Chief's Camp, and we'll take in some of the scenery and hopefully catch some of the wildlife as we go. Okay, we just come across a herd of giraffes. You can just see those off tard 2 o'clock at the moment. Hopefully we're not going to disturb them too much as we make our way around, but we'll try and orbit them just a little bit just to give our customer a decent view. Hopefully he can get a few pictures as we make our orbit. Anyway, we'll continue on our way, so we'll continue our turnaround to the right, heading back out towards the northeast. And hopefully en route we'll continue to pick up some more wildlife as we go. As you can see, plenty of beautiful lakes here between us and Chief's Camp, so hopefully we'll spot some elephants or some buffalo down at the water having their first drink of the day. Okay, so just coming up on Chief's Camp, you can see the lake on which the camp is located. You can maybe just make out the buildings just coming up off the nose. We'll orbit around the camp, we'll see if we can't spot a little bit more wildlife before we head back towards Xigera. So we've got a draft down there at our 9 o'clock. Looks to be all on his own, which is a little bit unusual. Once again, we'll stay fairly high here just to avoid upsetting him. He's making his way through the forest at the moment. Now we've got a few more what looks to be elephants just off the nose, so we'll make a quick orbit around them. There's another draft just down below us at our 11 o'clock. Overall, we picked a great morning for the tour. Our customer's doing very well so far. Looks like the elephants are actually making their way towards the camp at the moment, or probably more likely towards the lake, more specifically. So here's Chief's Camp. The camp buildings are fairly buried away down in the trees there. We'll get a bit of a better view of that in just a moment's time. Anyway, plenty of wildlife here early morning, obviously again having a little bit of a drink. And Chief's Camp again looking a very pleasant place to spend a few days. Sure, it doesn't come cheap. Little helipad passing just down below us. Anyway, we'll just continue in our left turn here and then we'll track back out towards the southwest. As I say, we'll head back towards Camp Xigera and of course en route we'll see what else we can spot before we reach home. Okay, so we're just coming back in towards Camp Xigera. We'll get our downwind checks out of the way. So the brakes are checked and off. Undercarriage is down, mixture is rich. Fuel pump is on, landing light can come on. Instruments are checked and our harnesses are secure. We'll just overfly the camp itself once again, check out the landing spot, make sure it's still clear. One of the nice things about the Addon is you can of course have wildlife just walking over your chosen landing spot, even the runways at the airports on occasion. So it does actually pay to make sure that the landing strip is clear. Once again, we'll just keep a good lookout for any other wildlife that we spot before we make our landing back at Xigera. Camp should be somewhere off our left wing. A little bit tricky to spot, again it's a bit buried away in the tree line as we saw on departure. So we'll just make a little bit of a left-hand orbit, we'll come back round for the landing. Come back off the power, we'll start reducing our speed, we'll take the flaps. And again, you do have to be quite careful with the flaps in the Zenith, they are very easy to overspeed. So we've got a ton of water buffalo down there on the shore of the lake. We'll get our final checks out of the way, so pitch is full fine, undercarriage is down, flaps are set. Landing clearance is not required, we've seen that the landing area is clear. And we'll keep the speed around 40 miles an hour. Obviously we want to keep the speed nice and slow just to minimise our landing roll. We don't have too much area in which to get the aircraft down. We're going to have to just scrape our way over the tops of the trees here as well, just so that we don't end up too high here on final. So coming on to final, we'll cut the power. There's touchdown, straight onto the brakes, and bringing ourselves to a stop. So there you go guys, I hope you enjoyed part 2 of our outing in SimWorks Studios Okavango Delta. As I mentioned in part 1 of the series, I think the scenery is great fun to explore, really nice addition to the sim, very much the kind of thing that Microsoft Flight Simulator is well suited to. And the same goes for the SimWorks Studios Zenith CH701 as well. Overall I very much enjoyed the aircraft, and I'm really glad to see as well that SimWorks Studios have continued to develop it, and overall the product feels very polished, very well finished. I expect we'll revisit both products in the sim again at a later date, certainly planning on continuing to explore the Okavango Delta, and I imagine we'll take the Zenith out on a couple more bush trips in the future as well. Once again guys, I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more content from the channel, then please consider subscribing as well. As I mentioned during the introduction, if you have any comments or questions for me, you can leave those down in the comment section below, and I'll always do my best to answer them. As always, a very big thank you to my channel members and patrons for all of your support, and thank you very much as well to SimWorks Studios for letting me showcase their work on the channel. Take really good care guys, I hope you're all having a great day wherever you are, and I will see you all again soon.